My name is Jennifer Christian, and I am a staff member with Crosby Scholars in Iredell County, working with the ninth and 10th grade students and also with our student officers. And I also have another staff member on the call, Mariah Roseborough, who is our near peer advisor.
Yeah, hey everyone. So as Jennifer said, I'm the near peer advisor, mainly working with juniors and seniors. I'm glad to be on the call tonight.
And I am pleased to introduce Arabelle Jackson, a third year veterinary student who is going to walk us through tonight kind of what it takes to apply to vet school. She might ask some questions for some reactions in the chat. And I'll just turn it over to her. She's going to share with us kind of her background, um, kind of from start to where she is now. Arabelle, I will turn it over to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know we have a lot of students um, who are excited about learning what it takes to get into veterinary school, kind of your journey, and sharing some things along the way. So thank you.
Yes, well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so excited to be here. So thanks for everyone who is joining tonight. I've never gotten to do one of these before, so I'm thrilled. So I'm definitely going to be talking about veterinary medicine today. But a lot of the things I talk about too, those would definitely be transfer if you're thinking about medical school or PA school, anything like that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am from Lincoln, Nebraska. I graduated high school in 2017, which feels like quite a while ago now, but I graduated in 2017. And then I went to a small liberal arts university in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I went to Nebraska Wesleyan from 2017 to 2021. And I graduated in 2021 with a bachelor's of science in biology, and then I had a minor in communication studies. And then we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, but I had a year in between starting or graduating and then starting vet school. So I applied two different application cycles. I didn't get out on my first one, and then I reapplied on the second one. So I started veterinary school in 2022. Since I am from Nebraska, we have a program with Iowa State. So we do 2 years at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and then I am doing my last 2 years of veterinary school at Iowa State. So I am currently a third year there, and I should be graduating in 2026 if all goes according to plan. So just to kind of start off, I thought I would give you a little average timeline of vet school for anyone who's maybe not familiar. So on average, you're probably going to do about a 4-year undergraduate. That can definitely vary. I have some classmates who did 3 years instead of 4, but on average, we're going to be looking around 4 years. And then 4 years of veterinary school. So most veterinary school programs, that's going to be a 4-year commitment. And then I have down there at the bottom, this might change a little bit if you have a gap year. Me and then many of my classmates, we applied multiple times. So there's nothing wrong with that, but that might change your timeline just a little bit. So that is what we're going to be looking at for average school time. And then today I really wanted to talk about your guys' undergraduate, so heading to college, since that's kind of the next step in your guys' journey. I think we have all grade levels on here, so some of you might be a little bit closer to that decision than others, but we can definitely be thinking about that. So some common majors you're going to have for veterinary school, and then also if you're thinking about human medicine. So biology, animal science, biochemistry, those are all going to be pretty popular majors. And one of the reasons for that is that we're going to get to that a little bit later. But in order to be admitted to school, you are going to have a required set of courses that you need to take in order to be eligible to apply. And a lot of these are just going to overlap with that. So you're going to have a lot of the same biology, animal science courses that would be required for admissions. But I do like to put on there that everyone's journey is going to look a little bit different. So vet schools across the United States are going to have prerequisite courses that are required for admissions, but admissions are not major specific. So you just have to fulfill those requirements. I have one classmate, for example, she had a career before this, and then she knew she wanted to go to vet school, so she only completed those required courses and then applied. So it does not have to be a certain major, you just have to fulfill those courses. Okay, so a little bit about veterinary schools. So there are going to be 33 accredited veterinary schools throughout the United States. And like I said, as long as you meet their requirements, and if you have any questions about that, I would encourage you to go to their website, and they should have an admission section where you can look at all those requirements. But yes, so you can apply wherever you would like to as long as you meet those. With that being said, your in-state veterinary school is NC State. And that should always be your number one goal. Like I said, people from all different states will go to all different schools, but it's important if you are able to go to your in-state school, because at this level of education, that makes a big difference when it comes to tuition. So I would say your number one goal, of course, is to go to vet school, but if you're able to go to your in-state school, that should be your number one choice. And then this is going to be some of the prerequisite courses we are looking at. I have this from NC State since that is your guys' home school. So a couple courses, animal nutrition, biochemistry, biology. We're going to have general chemistry and organic. There's going to be some humanities classes, English, communications, genetics, microbiology, physics, and then statistics. So this is what theirs look like. Again, this is going to change for every school, but a couple things to think about. So I know some of you have maybe already chosen a school to go to, which is amazing. But if you're still thinking and looking, this would be a good idea when you're looking at those schools to look at their course catalog or meet with an advisor and see if they have these required courses, so you can get those taken care of. And no need to panic if you've already chosen your school and they don't have one of these on the list. That is no problem. I did 2 classes actually outside of my university I went to, the credits transferred, and it was no problem. So no need to fret about that. The other thing I would say too is when you get to your school, a great thing to do is you'll be paired with some sort of advisor, usually in the department you're in. So I had a biology major advisor. A great thing to do is to sit down with them when you start school and say, hey, these are the courses that I need to take. I am hoping to go to vet school. Can we map out a plan to make sure I get all of these taken care of? So I think that's a really good thing to do when you get to school. And then a little bit more about the academic requirements. So this is again for NC State. So you guys are going to be in the North Carolina resident side over here. So vet schools are going to look at 3 things on your applications for academic requirements. So the first one is going to be your cumulative GPA. So that is going to be your GPA from every single course that you took in your undergraduate. They're going to compile all that. And then the second thing is going to be your science or your required course GPA. So all those ones we talked about on the past slide, those are going to be compiled and they're going to look at that GPA. And then the last thing that they're going to look at is going to be your last 45 credit hours of school. And so usually that evens out to around your last 3 semesters of your undergraduate. And something I should have pointed out on the last slide, if you would go to NC State admissions, you would see that there's a certain number of credits for each of those classes. So oftentimes you're going to have like multiple chemistry classes, multiple humanities classes. And I also wanted to say, I know sometimes that looks overwhelming with all those courses, but reminder that you're going to spread that out over your whole college experience. So I know it can look a little scary up front, but I promise it's doable. Okay, and then just a little bit more about the fields in veterinary medicine. Because if I'm being honest, before I got to vet school, I didn't even realize that some of these were such big fields in the profession. So I thought we would just go through that to kind of get you guys thinking about the different paths you can take if you choose to become a veterinarian. So to start off is going to be our small animal medicine. That's probably what a lot of us think about. So that is like oftentimes in a city setting, you're going to be seeing mainly dogs and cats. Some small animal veterinarians might also specialize in exotics. So that would be things like rabbits and guinea pigs, turtles, snakes. You certainly don't have to do that, but that is definitely something that some people will choose to do. And then mixed animal, that is oftentimes going to be in a rural setting. So mixed animal veterinarians are going to see just about everything. They will see cattle, horses, sheep, dogs, cats. They will see about everything that walks through the door when you're looking at mixed animal. And then you can be equine specific. So you are solely focusing on horses. One of my really good friends in vet school, that's all she wants to do. She only wants to work on horses. So that is the option that you have. And then food animal was one I wasn't super familiar with before I got to school, but it's a surprisingly big industry in veterinary medicine. So when we say that, that would be things like dairy cattle, beef cattle. That's a really big industry in the United States, and they need veterinarians for that. You could also be a poultry veterinarian and focus solely on chickens. They also need swine veterinarians, so you would only focus on pigs. So that's another big industry that I didn't realize before getting to school. And then laboratory slash research animal. That might not be everyone's jam, but I thought I would put it on here. So an example of that, almost every large university is going to have different departments, and a lot of those departments might do research. So if you're doing any sort of research on animals, let's say you're doing a pig nutrition study, you have to have a veterinarian there for that. So almost all large universities, research settings, you need a veterinarian on staff to make sure our animals are well cared for. And then public health is another field and that I, again, wasn't super sure about before I got to school. But especially when it comes to like our large animals and even some wildlife, things like that, we're looking at public health implications for a lot of those things. One of my professors, she was super cool, and she was a veterinarian. Then she got her PhD. She did research in Tanzania. She worked with bats. So really cool. And then another thing that I forgot to put on here was zoologic or wildlife medicine. So if you wanted to work in a zoo, if you wanted to work just with wildlife, those ones you might do even a little bit more education, a little bit more school after completing your veterinary degree, because that's a little bit specialized, but that's another thing that you can think about doing. So that's kind of an overview of what we have going on there. So before I move on, I know I've said a lot of things. Does anyone have any questions for me at all? Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any.
And Arabelle, one question came in through
Oh,
the
great.
chat, and this was maybe from a couple slides back.
Yeah.
If a student was applying to NC State, they were
Mhm.
wondering if you had to have all of those courses before you even apply. And I know you didn't go to NC State, but you
Yes.
graciously did some research for us. I don't know if you can
No,
answer that
I
question.
believe that that is okay if you have intention of taking them. Because I think what happens is once you finish all those courses, you will send a final transcript to the university. Because I'm trying to remember, I want to say I had a course the first time I applied that I had not completed yet, and that's no problem, I believe. I would assume it's the same at NC State. And you can just say, hey, I haven't taken this yet, and then you would send them your final transcript after you graduate. And I would say you could definitely check with an admissions person there, but I
Right.
believe that's okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, go ahead, Praneeth.
So, like, how often do you have like the hands-on experience with animals, like as you're going through the courses?
So that's a really good question. During your undergraduate, you are not going to have much contact with animals at all, just because those classes are going to be pretty much just strictly science. We're building up the foundation for all of your courses. But I'll talk about in a couple slides things that you can do to build your resume while in school. So you'll have to kind of find that outside of college, but you can definitely incorporate animal experiences into your college experience. But as far as the courses go, you probably won't get a lot of hands-on during your undergraduate.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then Arabelle, when would you say, knowing that you're, halfway through your third year, so basically only a year and a half to go, right?
Mhm.
When in your actual veterinary school experience do you have hands-on experience with animals? What does that look
Yeah.
like?
So you have a little bit of hands-on once you start vet school. So your first year, you'll start learning how to do physical exams, how to do blood draws, things like that. So you'll start seeing animals your first year, and that continues throughout school. Your third year of veterinary school, you will do surgery labs. So you will definitely get hands-on experience then. And then your fourth year of vet school is all rotation based. So that is when you're done with the coursework. And now most vet schools have a teaching hospital. I would assume NC State is the same way. And then you rotate through the teaching hospital and get hands-on experience like that. I do think the more hands-on experience you get before you go to vet school, whether that's from jobs or shadowing, the better. Because while we get some in vet school, it's always great to have a previous knowledge base since there's only so much time to fit everything in. But yes, once you start your first year, you will start working with live animals.
Any other? Yeah, Braden, go ahead.
I was planning on doing an internship with Animal Hospital really close to my school. Would that count as like hands-on, or do you think that they're just gonna like make you watch and that's it?
I think that is incredible. I think that is great. You will, a lot of times when a lot of us start out in this profession, if you want to go to vet school, a lot of times you kind of work up the chain. So I started doing kennels and reception. So any way you can get your foot in the door is awesome. And any experience you get, you can put that on your application. So I think that is awesome. And you can definitely build upon that. I don't know how much they'll let you do. It's super vet dependent and super clinic dependent, what they let you do. But that is an awesome spot to start, especially in high school, and you can put any of that experience onto your resume.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so what can you guys do if you are thinking about vet school right now? So I know where some of you or you guys are still in high school, so some of this will maybe be once you get to college, but there are things we can start doing right now if this is what you're interested in. Okay, so building your resume is going to be the biggest thing you can do to make your application stand out. So to start off, employment at a veterinary clinic is really important. And I think it's important for two reasons. One, it's important because the vet school committee, the application committee wants to know that you have an idea of what this profession is. I think I know there's a couple people who have gotten into vet school and they didn't work at a clinic, but I do think it's really important for your application. The second reason I think it's really important is just for you, to see if this is something that you're interested in, because you're gonna invest a lot of time and energy and money into this, which is great, if that's what you want to do, but you definitely want to make sure that this is something you're interested in. And I think the best way to do that is to work at a clinic. My sophomore year, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I'd had this in the back of my mind. So my sophomore year, I made up a resume and I delivered it to a ton of clinics in Lincoln, Nebraska, to see if anyone was hiring, and someone was. And so I got hired on. These are a couple pictures from the clinic I worked at. I had to include the cat in the backpack carrier because it was way too cute. But yes, I think employment at a veterinary clinic is super important.
And Arabelle, can I ask really quick, when you
Yeah.
mentioned you were a sophomore, were you a sophomore in college at that point?
Yes, I was a sophomore in college. Good
Yeah.
call. I should have said that.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But
And
I mean, there are lots of veterinary practices throughout Iredell County. If a student wanted to see, I don't know that you'd be hired on as an employee necessarily, but yeah, sorry, I just wanted to clarify. Sorry, keep
no,
going.
absolutely. That's a really good point. But I know a lot of places too, kind of like I said, you kind of start in and then kind of work your way up at a lot of clinics. A lot of people need people to work the kennels because a lot of veterinary clinics have animals board with them. And that is, we had a girl in high school at my clinic who did that. So I think it definitely doesn't hurt to go out and ask and see if anyone's looking for anyone even in high school. Definitely doesn't hurt. And then the next thing I would say is volunteer if you guys have a local humane society, any local rescues. That's a great way to get animal experience. We'll kind of talk about towards the end what my application looked like for school, but I volunteered at the Humane Society and I walked dogs since I was I think I was 16 when I started doing that. So that's something you could probably also start doing in high school if you wanted to. And then I can't say what your guys' shelters are like there, but where I'm from, you could also volunteer with the veterinary staff there. They need extra hands. You can get a lot of good experience. You can see some surgeries, which is exciting. So you could definitely reach out and see if they need any help. I think along those lines, just volunteering anywhere, being out in your community, they're going to love seeing that on an application. So volunteering really anywhere is great. And then getting involved at your college. So that can look like anything. That can be student organizations, honoraries, just anything on campus that gets you involved. I think they like to see that. They want to see that you're a well-rounded candidate who's done and had lots of different experiences. So the more you can get involved, the better. And then research opportunities and internships. We just talked about an internship, which is exciting. This a lot of times will come to when you're in college, because I know that's a very broad statement. But once you get involved with, let's say you're in the biology department, and you've declared your major, you're going to get emails and announcements all the time saying, oh, we have this internship, we have a research position, we have a position open at the lab. So you're going to get lots of opportunities through going to school. And again, it doesn't hurt to talk to an advisor and be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Do you know of any opportunities? And a lot of schools too, my school didn't, but they will have pre-vet clubs. So that's a great way to get involved, to meet people, to hear about opportunities. And then shadowing veterinarians in different fields, I think is really important. So the difference between my first application and my second application was I got more mixed animal experience. So on my first application, I'd only worked at a small animal clinic. And on my second one, I had shadowed at mixed animal clinics, and I worked there for a summer. And that is just exposure to a different side of veterinary medicine. And again, I think the admissions committee wants to see that you understand this profession and know there are lots of moving pieces to it. So I think asking people to shadow, it can never hurt to call and be like, hi, I'm a student. I'm hoping to go to vet school. Would you care if I came and shadowed one of your doctors? And a lot of people will be totally okay with that. So shadowing in different fields, I think, is really important. And then the other thing, which I might have mentioned it a little bit earlier, but when you fill out your application, they are going to ask you for hours. They're going to ask you, how many animal hours do you have? How many vet hours do you have? So you guys can even start now recording those. And if you don't end up going to vet school, no problem, but you've had them written down so it makes your application a little bit easier, because they will ask you about that. So really, the sooner you get started in building those hours, that's great. I feel like more is more with your application. So whatever you have and whatever experience you can build up is going to be great. And then, so this is just kind of a key takeaway there, looking for a well-rounded applicant when you apply. So this is from the NC State Admissions Committee. There is no one thing that will make an applicant stand out to the admissions committee. The admissions committee reviews all aspects of an application in a holistic review process, and each component of the application is valuable in determining admission. So I think nowadays they really want to get a holistic view of you as a person and your interest in this field. So all of the things, like, of course, grades are important, of course, experience is important, but I think they like to see it all come together, and they're looking for well-rounded applicants. So that just, again, comes with your resume. Building it up, getting varied experiences is going to be really important. And I like to give this example too. One of the schools, because I applied to 2 schools the first time I applied, and then the next cycle when I got into Nebraska/Iowa, I had applied to 8 different schools. And so I applied to the University of Florida. And one of the things about their application was they wanted you to make a video solely saying who you were. They didn't want to know anything about veterinary medicine. They just wanted to get to know you. So I think nowadays, especially, they want to kind of just have a really well-rounded candidate. And then, okay, so this was what my application looked like. So work experience, I had worked as a receptionist at a small animal hospital. I did it part-time through college. I did that for about 3 years. And then I was a reception and vet assistant at a mixed animal practice for a summer. And then, like I said, I walked dogs at the Humane Society. I also volunteered with the vet staff there. And again, record all those hours if you do them so you can put them on your application. And then I also just had some other volunteer experiences. I was with the Lincoln Family Literacy Program in Nebraska, Malone Community Center. And then involvement in college, I was part of the freshman orientation team. I was in Greek life. I was part of Tri Beta biology honorary that they had there. And I was also in a Greek honorary. And then shadow experience, I also just went and shadowed at a mixed animal practice. So, and then I also forgot to put on here, but I did a 2-week study abroad trip to Belize, which was kind of a unique experience. So I made sure to put that on my application. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, especially when you guys are making connections and building your resume, is vet schools are going to ask you for letters of recommendation. So making good connections with the people that you come in contact with is really important. I guess I can't say for sure for NC State, but for Iowa, you had to have 2 recommendations that were from a veterinarian. So I had 1 recommendation from the veterinarian at the small animal practice I worked at, and then I had 1 from the mixed animal. And then I think you can have up to 6 on your application. So I had 1 from my volunteer director. I had 1 from a humanities professor. I had 1 from a biology professor and an anatomy professor. So just a reminder that you're going to meet lots of people, and hopefully you can make connections with them, because at some point you might need them, or ask them to write you a letter.
In the chat, there was a question. There is a student who spends a lot of time riding horses and then caring for the horses.
Yeah.
They were just inquiring kind of your take on if those hours spent caring for the horses could count as animal contact.
I think that the animal contact hours, if you were doing any caring for the horses, those would definitely count. I'm not sure about the riding of the horses. That I would say probably wouldn't count, but I know for sure that the care of those animals would count towards your application. Yeah. If anyone has any questions about anything, feel free to email me. When I was going through this process in college, I didn't really know very many people, and I was figuring out a lot of it on my own. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I also know I didn't touch a ton on actually being in veterinary school. So we definitely have time for questions. So if anyone has any questions about that, I am happy to answer them.
Is it stressful? Do you get a lot of work?
Yeah, I will say it is a little bit stressful. Your coursework and load once you get to veterinary school is definitely a lot. They pack a lot of credits in, and you do a lot of long hours. So I would just say to anyone thinking about it, if this is your passion and you're excited about it, then nothing can stop you. You're just gonna go for it. And you're going to put in the work. I would say if you're maybe not sure, to definitely take time to think about it, because it is a lot of work, and you do have to dedicate a lot of time to it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Arabelle, I will ask you this, and I'm not sure at what point you decided that you might be interested in veterinary medicine, are there classes in high school that the students that are on the call, if you're, kind of reflecting back, that
Yeah.
you would encourage students to explore certain courses while still in high school?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think any science classes are a good choice, especially like biology. So anything like that, because your coursework, especially up, because I think I'm in my third year now, and we are finally out of my 4 years undergrad, 2 years last year. We're finally kind of getting out of just like the basic sciences. So you're going to spend a lot of time doing that. So I think the bigger the foundation you can have going into school, going into your undergraduate, going into that school, I think that's great. So I would say any science classes you can get your hands on would be a great choice for still being in high school.
Yeah, Praneeth, go ahead.
So I'm taking animal science right now for this semester, and then I'm taking AP chemistry next semester.
Yeah.
So could that two classes like take off like some of the like work for like the prerequisite like, courses needed for NC State?
Yeah, that I am trying to think because I know that your AP classes, if you take that AP test, it can transfer to your undergraduate and take the place of that course. That would probably be a question for the actual admissions committee. I think your AP one, there's a chance that could count. The animal science one, they'll make you take that again. Any of those other prerequisite courses. I can't say for sure on the AP test, but you could definitely reach out to the university on that one because I don't have a good answer for you there.
And I know at Crosby Scholars, when Mariah and I are working with students that are kind of in applying to their bachelor's degree, their undergrad, it does vary a bit from one school to the next, what they will accept. Like Praneeth, you mentioned that AP class, and exactly as Miss Jackson said, sometimes it depends on what score you get on that final test, if that counts. But none of that would take away from what you have to take in veterinary school, right? I mean, Arabelle, you've got
Yeah.
very specific things, obviously, that you are going to take throughout your veterinary school career.
Yes, for veterinary school, there are no classes that transfer. So you do your undergrad, you get those courses that you need to be admitted, and then every single person will take every single class that they require. Yeah.
And Praneeth, your timing was great because the question I was going to ask was if we had any students on the call that are taking things like animal science or other experiences, other classes that any of our students on the call might be taking currently that they find helpful, if they want to recommend that to their fellow students.
Thank you so much for answering my question. Yeah.
Of course, yes. Yes, and please send me an email. I'm very good at responding most of the time. So if you have any questions, please reach out.
A couple of things, Arabelle, that I know I kind of have. I know that many of our students on the call, when you asked regarding are they interested in veterinary medicine or human medicine, so some students thinking about nursing, thinking about becoming a physician, a PA, a physician's assistant. I know that there is a pediatric dentist in town, just as an example, and his undergraduate major, zoology. You had mentioned biology as undergrad for veterinary medicine, animal science, biochem. I know that through your undergraduate experience, Miss Jackson, that you have also come into contact with students who were exploring becoming a PA. And there are a physician's assistant, which much like veterinary medicine or med school, those are three very competitive kind of professional degrees. Anything that you have seen that those students maybe studied as their undergrad, or any other tips related to maybe students on the call who might be looking at human medicine? I know that's a very open-ended question.
One of my friends who was in PA school, our required courses were almost identical for what she needed for her PA school, what I needed for veterinary school. So a lot of those are going to look really similar. So really most people that I know, and again, everyone takes different paths to get there, but if you're kind of doing the traditional 4 years, pick a major, biology, biochemistry, chemistry, just because a lot of those science courses are what's needed to get into those schools. But I think a lot of what we talked about transfers. I know for some human medical schools, which is definitely medical schools, PA schools, they are going to require a set amount of hours before you can apply. Vet school's a little bit different. They don't really say, hey, you need 1,000 hours before you can apply, but some human medical professions will do that. So if you're thinking about that, I would encourage you to look at programs around you, see what their like hour and admissions requirements are, because that's definitely something you want to build up sooner rather than later if they have a lot of hours accompanying them. But a lot of the same principles apply with trying to get a job. I know like my friend who wanted to go to medical school, she volunteered at the hospital. She was a greeter. She had a research experience with an oncologist. So it's very similar in the fact that you want to get experience in that field, see as much as you can, and build up as many hours as you can.
Another thing that I have heard some of our Crosby Scholars students who are currently maybe they've gone on from high school into college and they need, just as you're saying, Miss Jackson, some of those patient contact hours before they can apply.
Yep.
Some of those students have actually become an emergency medical technician to get patient hours, patient contact hours. And that is something that a student probably could begin to explore even in high school, looking at becoming an EMT, potentially. So we have a question in the chat, and Mariah could maybe even chime in on this too. This student is going to an early college program here in Iredell County. So when they graduate high school, not only will she have her high school diploma, she will have an associate's degree in science. Just wondering if that will help her with her undergrad.
I think that sounds great, especially that you're getting a little bit of college experience in high school. I think that's incredible, and I'm sure that some of those classes probably would transfer. So I think that's great. And if you ever have any questions about will this class work for this requirement, I know throughout my undergraduate, I was emailing lots of people. I would email and be like, hey, is this class going to count for this? And they can definitely let you know. But I would assume that some of those classes will transfer, and I think that's great.
Yes, exactly that. Kind of what we were just saying is you just want to continue to make sure that what classes you're looking at, make sure that you are getting early information on if it's going to transfer. Same thing is if you're doing an associate's degree or not doing an associate's degree, right? Just making sure that you are checking in on if those classes transfer and get a head start on it, just so that you feel like you're being proactive and you know exactly what you're trying to do in terms of what your exact plan is going to look like. Being proactive is going to help you out in the long run. So you guys even asking these questions right now is being proactive. But yes, definitely it will help you and it can help you. So.
Thank you. And then another question in the chat that just came up. Would going to a school where I could major in biology, but it doesn't necessarily offer any animal science or pre-vet science majors be a good choice, or should I look at colleges that do offer animal science programs and majors?
That is an excellent choice. So you certainly don't have to. The school I went to had no animal science classes. It didn't have animal science classes. It didn't have a pre-vet club, and that wasn't even an option. So absolutely not. You are going to be great where you are if that's where you've chosen. That is not a problem, and I really don't think that makes a big difference. As long as you get those classes, you don't have to be at a school that has an animal science program. No, you should be just fine.
Yeah, so if a student decided to pursue biology as their
Yes.
bachelor's degree, their undergraduate degree, it could be a biology degree from any college or university.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
I think that's a good point. Sometimes I think there's maybe a misconception about where you go to school gives you priority, and that is not the case at all. So wherever you meet those requirements and they fulfill it and you do all those other things, you're going to be golden.
I know that one of the things that students kind of tell us that participate in Crosby Scholars, they like connecting with experts like yourself and also connecting with other fellow students. So I just would kind of like to open it up both for any volunteering that our students on the call are doing related to animals. If you love animals, if you're thinking about veterinary medicine, vet tech, something related to animals, or for those that are on the call that might be thinking about, as you said it, human medicine. If there's anything that any of you are currently doing as far as volunteering, shadowing, exploring an internship, if anybody's comfortable sharing what that is so that other students on the call can kind of know what you're up to, that would be awesome. If anybody wants to share, you can unmute yourself or type it in the chat, whichever you're more comfortable with.
So I actually volunteer at Humane Society with Norman Humane, and I do a feeding shift. So I basically it's for cats. So I feed the cats, I like clean the litter boxes, and it was like a really like nice like what experience because you could like pet the cats, you could get to know them, and you have like what exact like what expectations like they have like signs like if you can pet them or not, so you can like what know what you're doing before like you do it. So it's really fun.
Yeah, and did you say that was through Lake Norman Humane?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Praneeth. Is there an age requirement?
You have to be like 14,
Okay,
and then you have to be like for the dog, like if you're dog walking, you have to be like 18 years and older.
awesome. Thank you. Yeah, perfect. That's a great example. Thank you, Praneeth. And Brianna, go ahead.
There's this place that I volunteer at in Statesville. It's called Home at Last Farm, and they are solely run off of volunteers. They're pretty new. They started in 2018, and they mainly have horses, donkeys, and ponies, and they do have a few cats around, and they give you a lot of experience because when they have things come up like the animal needs their teeth cleaned or things like that, they'll let you know and you can come by and watch the farrier do all that. Or if there's like a minor surgery going on where the animal doesn't need as much anesthesia, they will let you come and look at that as well. And you can like just do anything on the farm, like clean, brush the horses. The only thing you can't do is ride them. So I know they've been wanting a lot of volunteers to keep their operation going.
That's fantastic. Can you share the name again with everybody in case that's something another student is interested in?
It's called Home at Last Farm.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and then Braden, were you going to share?
Like I said, I was planning on internshipping at a animal hospital really close to my school. It's called Village Animal Hospital. I think it's just like a regular veterinary, dogs, cats, the whole shebang. But one of my counselors also said they are like their technology is really old. So they said don't email them, call them. So if you are interested in volunteering, I would suggest you call them because I'm pretty sure she said they don't really do fancy computers. So
Got it. Not a whole lot with the website. And just to confirm, Braden, did you say that was Village Animal Hospital?
yes.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great. So Lake Norman Humane, Home at Last, and Village Animal Hospital. We encourage this whether we're talking about veterinary medicine or any profession. I think just reaching out, and I know that Braden said call on the phone because maybe their website's not real jazzy. To go ahead and make a phone call. If how many people, so this will be fun. Just give thumbs up. How many people on this call have some sort of animal in their life, whether that's a pet at home or a horse you go help out with? I can't remember what the statistic is, or if any of you guys know on the call, the number of households that have dogs in the United States was, I don't, does anybody know the answer to that? I feel like it was close to 50%, I read somewhere. Awesome. So yeah, Maggie mentioned she's hoping to shadow her aunt next semester, and she's in a small family doctor's office. Yeah, to shadow her and see what all she does. Yes, thank you, Maggie, for bringing me back. I think I got distracted from my own comment that I was going to share. Perfect. Nice. That is awesome. But I would suggest, thank you, Maggie, for sharing that. If you want to go shadow someone or even just spend time with them, Crosby Scholars is a nonprofit organization. So Dr. Damon Hayes, he was a podiatrist. He studied podiatry and practiced that foot doctor. And he then moved on to doing administrative work with Iredell Health Systems. So there are lots of people out there, and don't be afraid to do what Maggie did and ask, can I come shadow you? Can I just chat with you on the phone? Or can I swing by your practice, whatever that might be, a physical therapist, whatever it is, you're interested in healthcare, just to see if you like it, right? Have a list of top 10 questions because they live that job every day. And that's something that isn't weird when a high school student asks. If I asked, it might be weird, right? If I asked, they're like, what do you want to do? But when you're in high school and you want to go and shadow or learn more, they will be thrilled that you're interested. The other thing that I might ask, if there are any clubs at your school that are related to animals or to healthcare that you guys would recommend, or any societies. I know that Miss Jackson had mentioned getting involved in different kind of societies related to animals or healthcare. Is there anything that you guys are doing that you want to share? Go ahead, Praneeth.
Yeah, in my school, there's a Doctors Without Borders club, and like even there's no like animal science club. There's only an animal science course.
Yeah.
So I'm planning to do like a veterinarian club and like bring out speakers from like Wake Norman Humane or like Stand for Animals.
Yes. And for students who don't know, do you want to share what Stand for Animals does?
Stand for Animals is basically like a veterinary hospital. It's like it's in Mooresville, and like what you can I'm going to ask to like shadow someone.
Yeah, well, and I think if I recall their history correctly, I think there were some vets that were in and I know that they did have their Mooresville location. It may have started, don't quote me, but in Charlotte, and there were a lot of vets that wanted to help. They noticed they felt badly about the pet population of pets that were kind of out on the street, kind of homeless pets, if you will, and they wanted to help control the pet population. So they started a clinic, Stand for Animals, where they would have more reasonably priced to spay and neuter animals in the area. Yeah. And then we just had, so that's awesome, Praneeth. I know that we just had a student, Madeline mentioned the HOSA, health, and that stands for health occupation. I think, Arabelle, were you a member of that? You tried that out in high school too?
I wasn't technically a member, but I did attend club meetings, and that would be a great club to
Yeah,
join.
Madeline, are you comfortable unmuting and sharing kind of what your experience with HOSA has been like at your school?
So right now we're currently just like kind of trying to like get our club out because it's kind of a new club at our school.
Yeah, but basically that club looks at different health occupations, right, Madeline?
Yes, it's more like for human like medicine and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's great. Yeah, Brianna, go ahead.
HOSA is also offered at the school I attend, and it's kind of like FBLA if you've ever heard of that. You can go to conferences, and they have veterinarian programs where you like get to do like fake surgeries on animals in competitions, group competitions, and also since the club is also still new at my school, you can take tests at your school and like go forward to regionals and nationals and stuff. And that can be in any medicine field, human or animal.
I love that. Yeah. And I know I saw that Braden mentioned would love to make a club at their school. So guys, I think I don't know of any high school teacher, assistant principal, guidance counselor who wouldn't love if you said, hey, I want to start HOSA, the health club, or like Praneeth thinking about one that's more animal specific. If you've got ideas, and yes, Heal Club is another health, and that one's at South Iredell High School, I know. I don't know if other high schools have that. And yeah, I think that one was student started. Thank you. Yeah. So all kinds of opportunities. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We've got like 3 minutes left. If there are questions of our expert that you've got related to veterinary school, the experience of, being on the verge of being a vet, any other final questions in our last few minutes here?
Do you enjoy being in veterinary school, Arabelle?
I definitely I enjoy it in the sense that this is what I've worked really hard for. And it's really exciting to be able to see the finish line now because I'm getting a little bit closer. It is a lot of work though, and you have to put in a lot of time and energy. So some days it is not super fun, but it is definitely gonna be worth it in the end because I do love animals and this is definitely my dream. So I think, and one good thing too is I have met a lot of lifelong friends here, and so you can't really replace that for anything. So yes, it's been a journey. So it's been good.
Do you have like lessons about euthanasia? Really?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, we definitely learn about all facets of veterinary medicine. So yeah, we do talk about that in our classes for sure, and helping pets kind of navigate the end of their life. Yeah, we definitely talk about that in school.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we've got a question in the chat, Miss Jackson. Have you ever thought of doing something else or regretted your decision?
Good. That's a good question. I definitely thought about doing something else. I thought about being a dentist. I thought I might be interested in that. When I went to college, I wasn't super sure. But then when I started working at a clinic, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I don't have any regrets. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think for you guys going into any field, I think working towards it is a lot easier when you feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, no regrets. And I definitely thought, I did think about other things though. And I think the only way to kind of figure out for sure is to get experience in those things and decide, this might be for me or maybe not. So yeah, I would definitely, if anyone's hesitant or on the border, go shadow at completely different majors if you want to decide if what you're doing is what you want to be doing.
Could this also go into like zookeeping?
That is actually a really good question. One of my classmates, he actually did zookeeping beforehand. So you could do, if you wanted to do some zookeeping type stuff, you probably wouldn't necessarily have to go to vet school for that. But if you wanted to be like the medical director in charge of the medical care that the animals get at the zoo, then I would definitely say vet school would be an option for you. But I know one of my classmates, he did zookeeping before he came to vet school. So I don't think you necessarily would have to have the degree to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arabelle, for sharing your email here. If anyone has any additional questions that you think about after the fact, but a little round of applause for our guest speaker and everybody else, all the students, give yourself a pat on the back to spend your time here learning more about a potential educational journey as well as, career. So
Yes,
all
thank
right,
you guys for having me. This was so fun.
we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Arabelle. We appreciate your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Miss Jackson, I don't know if you can see the chat, but you're getting lots of thank yous flying in as students are leaving the call. Lots of thank yous. So
I'm so happy I could be here. This is so exciting.